I'm going to resume my recording here. All right. So let's get started. Where did my chat go? There's my chat. Maybe. Chats, where for art thou? I like that it puts my chat at the very back behind everything instead of in the front of things where I would like to see it. Bum, bum, bum. Yes, Alex, we will get to that in a bit. All right, so shall we do this alphabetical order, smallest to largest? How do you guys want to start this critique?
Smallest to largest?
Smallest to largest it is. Hold on, just in case there is sound.
Oh, there's no music in it.
This is neat. Something I'd look at is doing a little bit more color variance on like your flocking that you've got going on. You get some kind of glitter from the dark ones as they cross over from those shadows. But no, I think this looks kind of cool. I'd almost like to see that camera go even further into the sim. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any comments? Anything that she could do to improve? Anything you think she did well?
I like that the flight simulation seems to pop out of the big ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
I wanted to do explosion, but it didn't work, so I'm looking for a spot.
Yeah, explosion is a tricky one.
Oh, your little object's like rotating at the moment? Yeah. That's so cool. I like that.
Yeah, there's lots of little details in here. Someone said your reflections look really good. I agree.
Yeah, I tried to make like a space kind of thing, but like the Arnold wouldn't let me do like anything darker than light gray for some reason, or I couldn't see it and the lights weren't working correctly. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just my computer or.
It could be. It could be. Anything else on this one? We're gonna kind of keep these a little short so we can get started. I want to give you guys plenty of time to work on stuff for homework. All right, good job. I won't lie, I think this is the most people I've seen in one classroom all semester.
We're finally sick of it.
Yes.
How many are actually this class?
Oh, it's so cute.
We have 8 in this class.
That's really cool.
Alex, I think this looks really cool. It looks like a school of fish. They're doing their thing.
I like how realistic it is that they even clump up together and then separate.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like a shark in the middle.
Yeah. Now you had a too far. You had another one too. Oop, too far. Yeah, I think this looks really cool. Yeah, nature documentary-esque.
I like how it looks like they're fighting over a food or something.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be something floating in the center there. But no, I think this turned out really well. And yeah, I do think your fast one, this fast one works really well.
You could do like trails and then make it so that the trails turn into like swimming like bubbles.
Little bubbles, or have it like really thin. Yeah, the caustic light, I think that works really well. Does your camera move? It kind of feels like it, but it might be that caustic. Yeah, he says just a little, very little.
It feels like it moves a lot. It just has, the depth is impressive.
Yeah, I think you did really well on your depth here too. I agree. Good job. Jeremy, it shouldn't have much lag. Whoop, I touched something. I like this. This is really neat. Yeah, feels like that, or either really, really small or really, really big. And this looks really cool. What do you guys think? Yeah, this is neat. What else do you guys think? Anything else?
Kind of reminds me of one of those like those things you see in health classes. This is happening inside your body.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel it. You could put like a star background or like a space background to it, and it would get it like, it would make it even more like pronounced as like.
Yeah, yeah. He said that it's too short, and his other one that he was going to turn in was 400 frames, so it's still rendering. And I don't know, Alex. I think more fluid, less particle. I think that could go either way. It's very nice with that advect. I think it looks kind of neat. But you could probably blend the two. But yeah, good job. Oh, come on. Let me click buttons. This is cool. It almost feels like it's like a swarm of bugs. We're kind of like going through it. I think this is really neat. What do you guys think? Mm-hmm. This is another one I think I'd like to just see like a longer, like let it keep coming back in front of the camera on like a loop.
Okay.
That would be really neat. Just get one of those like looping kind of GIFs.
Yeah.
Because you almost have like a really good loop point. All I would have to do is like kind of continue off a little bit.
Yeah, like because I have it following I wonder if I could just like big
It might. It might. Any other comments on this one? I just think it's neat. Yeah, someone said loop it and throw more color on it, and it make a really cool background.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now they got those like movie backgrounds.
I have one on my home computer of a mash I made.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Good job. Oh, I didn't hit loop. I got too involved. This is cute. I like it. It's just enough spooky, just enough fall.
This is like a music YouTube channel I listen to. Because of the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Looks really good. I don't know why. It gives me pizza butts.
Is the eye animation or the eye animation on?
Simulation?
Yeah.
Is your eye rotation on the sim? I don't know if you hear me from here or if you hear me from over there. Or did you keyframe that eye? Keyframe. Awesome. Yeah, I think this still looks really cool.
I really like the colors.
Yeah, I think this has a really nice fall palette. Those leaves kind of fall and are really fun. Someone says it looks like an actual electro swing music video. I think so. Yeah, I think definitely.
Oh, I just noticed the reflections in the eye from the
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, this is really neat. I think you did really well on this one. Yeah, there's a couple of ways you could do it in Mesh for that keyframing on the eye, but you've got a lot of Mesh stuff in here. I think just that one keyframed element. It's all right. Good job. First, I love that sound clip. I think this looks really neat. It's very colorful. It's just cool. I like the colors. I like the swirl. Do you have a noise color on that sphere?
A noise color? No, where all the colors that are getting from that was from the little color ramp that I applied to my Skydome.
Oh yeah, that's neat. That worked really well. This is cool.
Where at first I was trying to apply some for those spirits that get a random hue, but since it is my whole color ramp to my Skydome, it kind of just like took over as priority for the colors of everything else in the scene, which I think that actually turned out quite well.
Yeah, no, I think it looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool. I like it. What do you guys think?
I think it's very color vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And one
very
thing that I like to say about this, have it zoomed out a little bit more, where for some reason as I had my little project, it was it got the correct amount I wanted, and whenever I was rendering it, it would be all the way down to this, and it was like through it just how zoomed in, I don't know why that was.
Yeah, sometimes it'll try rendering from a slightly different angle based off your aspect ratio. Sometimes you just gotta like, there's a little button next to the grid. If you click that, it'll change your aspect ratio so you can see where your camera is. But no, I think you did really well. Someone said they love the colors, and I agree. I think this looks really nice. Good job. Again, I got distracted. Yeah, you did good. You're good. I will say something that I kind of wish you'd kind of pushed a little further. In that very first part where you're kind of like rolling across it, I kind of wanted to see like a full 360. Yeah, I think because it's already moving and we'd kind of get that depth just by your little diamond crystals here. I just think that'd be neat. And really like maybe like push through it, do something really neat with the camera. But no, I think this looks really cool, and I want to see this when you re-render it without the Arnold, because I want to see what it looks like all nice and crisp. Someone said that they wish the camera either didn't move or that it orbited it instead of just kind of panning. I think the panning works, but I think you would need a little bit more. Either do a rotation, do like a pan.
The orbiting better. I think I might try to just have it pan, but it'll pan in an orbit, so it's
Yeah.
cleaner.
I think that'd be really neat. Someone said it's mostly just the jump cuts that are making it kind of throw the immersion for it. But no, I think this looks really nice. It's really clean. That Mobius is always cool. What else do you guys think of this one?
I really like the texture but I'm sure it looks way better if it is without the watermark. Because is that what's making it a little bit grainy?
I feel like when it switched to the Arnold student thing, it took down the.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I had that thing set to like 4 to 5.
Yeah, it definitely does. It just automatically defaulted back to normal as part of the Arnold thing. Yeah, like I said earlier, I was rendering my own thing too, and I had all my settings set to 10, so all the colors were nice and rich. So I was rendering it at home, and then I threw it up the rest on the render farm, and then mine did the exact same thing. So yeah, it just sends it back to default. The second I know it's fixed, I'll let you know. Someone said it's super cool. They like the trails of the spheres that kind of go around it. I agree. I think it's neat.
I didn't want to make the spheres were the thing I was most worried about. I didn't want to make it overbearing, but I feel like it was thin enough, but you can see it enough to where it worked. And it kind of reflected off of the diamonds. So
yeah, the only thing I might possibly relook at on those spheres themselves is that kind of tealish color.
I think that was because of the I changed the color of the sky dome. It was supposed to be more luminescent than it is. I'm not sure how to do that.
What you could try to do, you'd have to do a little bit more research. I could help you out a little bit. Marty might be able to as well. You can make them into mesh lights using predetermined light sources.
Change the mesh file or the mesh part?
Yeah, that repro mesh that it is.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little bit complicated. And the last time I tried it, there might have been some code involved. I don't remember. I kind of blanked. But I don't think it would be too complex.
Okay.
It'd be like for like motion and like flickering and stuff. But that's something I just look at. I think that might be really neat since you wanted to make those kind of spherish globes. Yeah. But no, I think you did really, really good. Good job. Alrighty. I don't think I missed anybody. Nope. All right, so go ahead and let's open up Maya. It's going to open on my other screen, I think. Nope, okay. Now inside of this Hobo file that I had you guys save and download, Maya, come on, thank you. There's a couple of different file types in here for Hobo. Hobo's a rig that we're gonna play with. Your next exercise involves you animating him in fun and funky ways. But before you open any of these files, Hobo is very picky. If you do not set your file inside of Maya before you open his scene file, he can break real easy. It's one of his main flaws. I also had on D2L, there's a little note that said sometimes the Maya 2020 version would break. I think I've removed that if it's still in there. I think the online version might still have it. I'm gonna, for the demo here, use this 2018 version. It will tell you it has mental ray nodes, and it will tell you that it's got the new color space isn't available, or the old color space isn't available. That's fine, just tell it okay. The main thing is you want to make sure you set your project when you're working with Hobo. And so I'm going to open this Hobo Interacts, just like that. So like I said, it's like this file contains no array nodes. No matter what I do, they stay. This is the color space. It's just saying that the old one isn't there anymore. That's okay. And then you should get something that looks like this. This is Hobo. For you online people, I'm going to stop my share real quick and reshare it. I think I might have set the settings a little wrong. No, it says I have them right. All right. All right, so there's a couple things we're going to talk about today. The lecture itself isn't going to be too terribly long. We're actually going to not be in here too terribly long. So one thing to keep in mind, we're not going to be building any rigs in this class. This is an animation class, not a rigging class, so you don't have to worry about making any rigs. However, if you are interested in making rigs or playing with new rigs that you haven't seen before, there's a couple of places online that you can find them. Animation Buffet is a good place. Josh Sobel has a whole bunch of really cool tutorials. But there's also Truong, Troung. I have that, I think, on D2L for you guys as a resource. He has a whole bunch of free rigs that you guys can play with. You can also pay for some rigs. They start either at $1, and I think his most expensive one might be 15 or 20, something like that. He's got some really neat ones. He also, if you go onto his Patreon for $5, he'll teach you how to make rigs. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go on there and take a look. But the hardest part about rigs in general is just how are they controlled. And most of the time, if you have a really good rigger, there are controls you wouldn't even know about until you need them. So the hardest part is finding where all of your rig buttons are. So with Hobo, it should pop you out starting on this render cam right here. When you do go to render this exercise, I do want you guys to use this render cam. If you need to move it or keyframe it, that's fine. I just want to see this specific render cam for at least a second on your render. But we do have a perspective and a facial UI cam. We'll look at that in just a moment. But the main thing we really want to make sure is that we can see two views at once, because we want to be able to see Hobo himself as well as possibly our render cam or that facial UI. So I'm going to make sure that under panels here, I go to layouts and I do two panes side by side. Now this could be your render cam and perspective. This could be render cam and the facial UI. This could be perspective and the facial UI. You can pick which two you want to see, but I will recommend that, especially with larger rigs that do have their own individualized UI, having this two-screen viewability will help a lot. Now you can tear one of these off if you're like, that screen's too small. You can tear it off, put it on your second monitor. I won't do that because I want you guys to be able to see both at the same time during class. But if you're at home and you have multiple monitors, you can tear off as many as you want. And then you guys also have multiple monitors. So you'll have plenty of space to do this stuff with. Now the other thing we need to make sure that we're doing, if we are going to be using multiple panes at the same time is we need to make sure that when we hit play, both views are playing at the same time. So I'm going to come up here to Windows, Settings and Preferences and Preferences. Remember, this is where we can change everything about the interface of Maya, all that fun stuff. This is where we can check to make sure our undo is working. It is on. Why anyone would turn it off, I don't know. There's also a key button that apparently turns it off, so be aware. If you're ever logging into a new random computer that you've never used before, or sometimes ones that you have, double check this before you start doing anything complicated just to make sure that you won't lose any work. But we want to actually go to this time slider right above undo. This is where all the cool stuff where you can change your frame rate is. This is where you can change your actual playback start and end. You can also change the animation start and end. You can change whether or not your grease pencil is viewable on all screens, one screen, or no screens. You can change the tick size. So just for instance, if I set a keyframe here, so you see this tiny little tick size, you can make it thicker as needed. So if you're like, I really want to work on getting a first pass of my animation done in the blocking, I want to have really large, massive tick marks, you can go up to 5 times, make really large, big, bold tick marks. That's all up to you guys. You can also change whether your time display down here shows frames, the time code, or the time code on top of the frame. So if you're like, I want to be able to see how many seconds I'm at, you can change that here. And then you can also change whether your update view is active or all. I highly recommend making sure that is all. That way when you hit play, both of your panels will play at the same time. That way you don't have to flick between the two to make sure that they're updating and looking right on both views. This is a really good thing to know for when you're doing really complex character animations. And you need to be able to make sure that they are working properly in the correct dimensions. That way if you're moving an arm, it's actually moving this way and not like this way. So I'm just gonna hit save. I take it you're playing around with the controls.
His eyebrow wiggles.
Yeah. So let's take a look at Hobo himself. He's got a whole bunch of different controls. He's pretty standard once you start playing with him, but he does look a little intimidating when you think about the fact he also has a facial UI. So we have this little top cog right here. This cog moves. His head allows him to squash and stretch. There's also this little top cog that allows that tip of his head and a little bit of his side of his face here to kind of roll back and forth. We have this internal lollipop 4 square that allows him to lean. And we also have this outer cog that does pretty much the same thing. One will just allow you to kind of make more funky shapes. Example, funky shape. Then we have his lower elements here. We have our foot. You can make him look like he's running, doing some little tippy taps. You can also lift him up if he needs to jump. It'll also squash him a little bit. Then we have our main root control. This allows you to move him inside of 3D space. And then this hexagon is his overarching main control. This is that one that you want to leave perfectly alone once you've put it in a spot. This is the one that should you want to take him from here to the road out there in one frame, this is the one you'd move. So other than that, you want to leave that one kind of alone. And then we have the facial UI. Now, the facial UI is really fun. It does exactly what you think it is. So this one right here, this controls where on his body his eye moves. This next one here controls where he is looking. The next one after that is how is that eye angled on the body, as well as slightly in the position. Then we have how big is the overall iris in his body. Same with pupil. How big is his pupil or how small? Then we have have how big is the eye overall? Is it super duper small? Or is it super big? Then we have how much skin is around the eye. So if you make it really big or really small. And then we have how far in or out from the body is the eye. How focused or retracted is that into his body. So that top layer is pretty much how is the eye overall looking, angled, placed, that sort of thing. This second row is his overall top eyelid. So is he done with my lecture? Possibly. Is he now questioning my lecture? Possibly. And if you notice, it's only once I move this eyelid down that these other controls pop out. So you can't use this control if there is no motion there. Same here. This one kind of moves it a little bit more side to side. So if you are moving him on an angle, you might have to rotate his eyelid a little bit. Then we have his eyebrow. So his eyebrow can move up and down. You can also, as someone said, wiggle it a little bit. And then you can also move it up and down. So maybe he's like, super like, I believe all of your lies, sure. And then we also have a forward and backward. So as you notice, like originally I had this tiny little bit of clipping. This little forward and backward will allow you to kind of pull that forward so you don't get that as much. It's not foolproof. You can still kind of sometimes see the eye through it. Just be aware that that is one way to get rid of that little clipping. You can also zero out all of these. They only have the control that they control. When you click on them, so you can just zero them all out as needed. Then this lower one is exactly what you think. It's his lower lid. Maybe he's super giddy. He's ready for this lecture. You can also move that side to side. Move it up a little bit more. You can see it kind of contracts a little bit. Right or left. And then we also have the lower eyelid that you can also move up and down, right, left, and so on. Now, I highly recommend when you're working with Hobo that you create a button for all of his body controls and for his facial UI as a secondary one. So you'd have a button for the face and then you'd have a button for his body. I highly recommend that. It'll save you a lot of time and effort. Okay, any questions about Hobo's rig at all? He looks kind of fun, gelatinous. Someone said a potato.
Yeah, why is he named Hobo?
I don't know. I can only assume someone found him by a trash can. Someone threw out this poor little boy.
So sad.
I like Hobo so much. He's one of my favorite rigs. Yes, so you do make the buttons the exact same way as Bob. You just gotta zoom in a little bit. All right, so when you are working with a rig, whether it's simple or complex or somewhere in between like Hobo, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. We're not going to talk about it for too much. I just kind of want to put it in your head to start thinking about it. But it's how, whenever you are creating an animation with a rig, there's one little phrase you do need to kind of remember, and that's see, think, do. Your character needs to be able to see something, then it needs to think about how it will react and why, and then it needs to do something based off of what it's seen, and what it's thought. Yes.
What?
See, think, and do. So for example, if Greg walks by, I have a few options that I can do. First, I have to see him, so I would see him walk by. And then I would have to think, what would I do to let him know that I have seen him? I could wave and be like, hello, he's not actually back there. Or I could be like, hi, Greg, he's not actually back there. Or I could ignore him and plainly look at him and turn away. That would be rude, but it is something that I could think about doing. And then, should he walk by, I see him, my brain goes, ooh, say hello, I wave. See, think, and do. So we can craft this little dude to have emotions pretty easily because he's got this facial UI, correct? So how would Hobo react to seeing this glowing bioluminescent cube? He would have to see it, think about how he would feel about it, and then act accordingly, right? So regardless of what type of character you're animating, they all will have emotions in some way. You'll be moving them around. They have some sort of thought process, even if it's just you telling them they are, because all you're doing is you're acting through this little dude, right? So how on earth would we get him to animate, right? So depending on how you want him to act, he first has to see the thing. So let's say we come over here and we're like, maybe on frame 1, he's just kind of sitting there. Frame 10, he's like, wrong one. Oh, cube. So he looks down at it, and then maybe he takes a couple frames to think about it, and then he bodily moves backwards. Right? Yeah, he kind of glows. So you can see, he sees the cube, he takes a second to think about it, and then backs up. So how do you personally interpret the see, think, do with Hobo? So your homework is to animate Hobo to approach this box either cautiously, excitedly, nervously, angrily, however you think he would approach this box. Now, you don't have to keep this box. You can make this, you could turn this piece of box here into a piece of pizza, or a piece of cake, or a glowing chalice with flames. Yes. You could definitely make a Jack in the Box.
Can I put a voice line over it?
Depending, yes.
Can my spoon make a sense?
Your spoon can make a comeback. So you do have to animate him interacting with an object. I do have some examples. I'll show them to you. There is no time limit, so you can add as many keyframes as you possibly could ever want. But it does need to be rendered. However, if you find yourself before class, because this will be due on Tuesday at the beginning of class, if you're like, oh no, I forgot to render, what on earth will I do? Yeah. What you need to do is play blast it. Turn that play blast in. I will 100% accept a play blast on very few conditions. I don't want to see any of the UI. I don't want to see the grid. I don't want to see any cameras panning around through there. I don't want to see any lights. So what you need to do is if you are going to turn in a play blast as a last resort, is click this little show button and turn off controllers, curves, surfaces, CVs, hulls, lights, cameras, if you have any image planes, joints, handles, all that fun stuff, and grid. Make it look as close to being rendered as possible. That way, all I see is that you didn't render it, but there are none of those invisible little controllers there. The other main thing that you have to know for this exercise is I technically will be grading it. However, I will determine how well your animation is because I will show these to my wife. If she can't understand what's happening, you don't pass. So make sure your animation is clear. Make sure you're communicating through the acting of Hobo. If he's jumping, make sure you have that squash and stretch as needed. Really take the time to animate this as needed. Questions?
Are memes acceptable?
Memes are acceptable within reason. Run them by me first. Okay. Would you guys like to see some examples?
Yes. We got time.
Samples for Hobo.
Who made them?
I don't remember. I've had him since 2011. So.
You remind me of the same like creators of like the arm rig, or I mean the squirrel rig.
Yeah, I think that it was actually made by the same person that did the tail one.
Yeah.
Not the one with the ears, just the one with the ball and the tail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can do 2D. So if you're interested in doing a 2D version of Hobo, you can do that. Just make sure you're keeping the same principles of how he would move. Does that help? Those examples help? And then, like I said, you can change that cube to something else. I've had people turn in pizzas, donuts. Like I said, wouldn't be the first time I've seen like a treasure chest, that sort of thing. Someone turned in a knife once that like lifted itself and like ran through him. And he just kind of looked down scared. So you can definitely have fun with it. Just remember to make your acting clear, concise, and easy enough for someone that has no idea how animation works to understand it.
What do you got there?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last questions about Hobo and what's due? If not, that's all I got. Yeah, question.
We can like get different types of things to wear, right?
Mm-hmm. You can put him in a different location, so you can add other models. You can give him clothes.
Hobo in a suit. Huh? Put him in the breakfast seat. Everything goes in the breakfast seat.
But yeah, so you can add extra stuff to him. Any other questions? Anyone remote have any questions way over there in my Ouija board? No. Okay, so that's all I got. You're free to leave if you'd like to leave. You're free to stick around and work on stuff. Those of you remote, I'm going to be killing the share. That way I can get it started and encoded. And yeah, bye Ouija board. Those of you in here, you can do what you like. You can stick around